Hi, third graders. I hope you're having a good day. This is lesson 3 of classification of animals, and we're going to talk about vertebrates, animals that are vertebrates. Who remembers what classification means? What does classification mean? Classification is the grouping together of things based on how they are alike and the separating of things based on how they are different. Taxonomists classify animals based on their characteristics, and we classify animals so we can learn more about them. So Rattenborough, our narrator, has introduced us to 5 of his friends: Tabitha Toad, Hilda Hippo, Ebenezer Egret, Polo Piranha, and Anna Anaconda. And we learned yesterday that his friends, their names, use a literary device called alliteration. Do you remember that? Alliteration. It's just that their names start with the same letter as what they are. So Tabitha Toad is a T and a T and make the same sound. And we hear a lot of that in poetry. So the 5 vertebrate groups we've learned about are amphibians, mammals, birds, fish, and reptiles. The invertebrate group that makes up the largest number of species on Earth is insects. Remember, they make up over 95% of all animals. All right, here's some words you'll hear today. Cartilage, a strong, flexible tissue, most of which grows into hard bone in many vertebrates. Column, a set of objects arranged in a vertical or up and down arrangement, a supporting base. Crustacean, a group of mostly aquatic invertebrates that have a tough outer skeleton, 2 or 3 body sections, and include lobsters, crayfish, crabs, sow-bugs, and shrimp. Exoskeleton is the tough, rigid outer covering that invertebrate animals have for protection and to keep from drying out. Nerves are parts of the body that send messages to and from the brain through the spinal cord. The word slither is a verb. It's something that is done to slide smoothly along, often with a slight zigzag pattern. Predict what animal you think we'll learn about that slithers. Then we have the word spine, which is just another name for a backbone, and vertebrae. And a vertebrae is the bones that make up the spinal column or backbone of an animal. So we talked about cold-blooded and warm-blooded yesterday. Which of Rattenborough's friends are cold-blooded and which ones are warm-blooded? That's right, Tabitha Toad, Polo the Piranha, and Anna Anaconda are cold-blooded, while Hilda Hippo and Ebenezer Egret are warm-blooded. What are you? And what is Rattenborough? That's right, warm-blooded, because you're mammals. All right, so listen carefully and think about whether the description is an example of a cold-blooded animal or a warm-blooded animal. Think about what we learned yesterday, the characteristics of cold-blooded and warm-blooded animals. On a warm summer day, painted turtles will gather on a log sticking out of a river so they can bask in the sun. The sun's warmth will increase the turtle's internal temperature. Is that something a cold-blooded animal or a warm-blooded animal would do? A cold-blooded animal, right? Because cold-blooded animals have to have something outside their body help their temperature. All right, a walrus body is large and solid. It has a thick layer of blubber that helps it keep its body temperature constant. If its body temperature is constant, it's regulated, and that means it is warm-blooded. All right, let's do our read aloud for today. Hello, everybody. Rattenborough, world traveler and presenter of animals, back for another exciting day of slideshow and tell. Last time, we classified or grouped animals as cold-blooded and warm-blooded. Yes, I am warm-blooded, just like you. And how about my friend Hilda Hippo? Yes, Tilo hippo is warm-blooded. We all have another characteristic in common, too. Excuse me. And that is what we're going to talk about today. We are all vertebrates. Do you remember what vertebrate means? That's right. Vertebrates have backbones. And animals without backbones are called invertebrates. Because you and I are both vertebrates, we'll talk about vertebrates first. Let's take a look at the hippopotamus. When you look at the outside of an animal, you can't see the backbone because it's on the inside. But sometimes you can tell where the backbone is. Under a vertebrate's skin, there's a ridge. This is the backbone or spine. So look at this picture and you can see where the spine would be on these animals. It starts near its head and runs all the way down its back to its tail. Before we go any further, see if you can find your own spine or backbone just like you did the other day. Reach around and rub the middle of your back. Do you feel your backbone? Those bumpy bones? Each bump you feel is a separate vertebrae. They form a row from your neck all the way down your back to your tailbone. Your spine serves a very important purpose. Your spine protects your spinal cord, that large bundle of nerves that send messages from your brain to every part of your body. For today, let's take a glimpse at the backbones of the 5 animal species to which my 5 friends belong. We've seen that a hippopotamus has a backbone. Excuse me. Next, let's take a look at one of Ebenezer's fellow egrets. Its backbone, or spinal column, helps it to hold its head up high and protect its spinal cord. Like all egrets, Ebenezer could not live without his backbone. All birds have backbones or vertebrae. Snakes don't look like they have backbones, do they? Even though snakes slither or slip and slide along, they absolutely do have backbones. A snake's vertebrae, like an anaconda's, runs the length of its body and swing low to the ground as its muscles help it move along the ground or climb up trees. A pair of ribs is attached to each vertebrae, protecting the body parts inside the snake's body. All reptiles have backbones, so you can't always tell from the outside whether an animal is a vertebrate with a spine, a backbone, or whether it's an invertebrate. How about fish? Would you say fish have a backbone? The answer is yes. All fish have backbones too, just as reptiles, birds, and mammals do. It's very tricky to see, but if you took an x-ray of its body, you would see that all the other tiny bones that make up the skeleton of the fish are connected to its spine. Polo told me that even though all fish have backbones, some fish, like sharks and stingrays, have backbones that are made of lighter and more bendable cartilage instead of hard bone, allowing them to be more flexible and travel more quickly. That leaves amphibians. Take a look at my animal friends one more time. Pay close attention to the toad next to Tabitha. It's hard to tell when you look at a toad's body that there's a backbone inside. Now tell me, do toads have backbones? Yes, to be sure, they certainly do. Toads are vertebrates too. All amphibians have backbones. That means that all 5 of the animals you've seen today are vertebrates. They all have backbones. The question I'm going to present to you, students, is this. Do all animals on Earth have backbones? What are your predictions, boys and girls? What do you think? We know that mammals, which include hippopotami, me and you, birds, fish, reptiles, and amphibians, are all vertebrates too. Haven't we covered all the animal groups on Earth? Aha, trick question. If you said no, your prediction was correct. Do you remember if there are more vertebrates or more invertebrates on Earth? Good ideas. Look at this image that I shared with you earlier. Remember, more than 95% of all animal species are invertebrates, and insects are the largest group of invertebrates. And there are still so many invertebrates yet to be discovered and classified. As you can see in this image, vertebrates are actually only a teeny tiny group here on Earth because we tend to think and talk mostly about vertebrates. We sometimes forget that most of the animals in the world are actually invertebrates, and most of those are insects. Think how many insects there must be on our planet. No wonder insects are the most plentiful group of organisms that have ever lived. They make up 3/4 of all the species in the animal kingdom. Can you name a few of the many animals in the insect group? Flies, wasps, beetles, cockroaches, ladybugs, and butterflies are all insects. There are surely a lot more species of insects than there are species of amphibians, mammals, birds, fish, and reptiles all put together. Even though insects are by far the largest group of invertebrates, they are not the only invertebrates. Here's another question for you to think about. Close your eyes and pretend you are a taxonomist for a moment. Can you think of any other animals without backbones? Here's a hint. Instead of internal vertebrae, these animals have an external or outer hard body covering. So what can you think of that has an external or outer hard body covering? The largest group of invertebrates is made up of arthropods. Insects make up the largest group of arthropods. Another large group of arthropods includes arachnids. What are arachnids? Spiders are arachnids, and so are ticks, daddy longlegs, and scorpions. Insects have 6 legs and 3 body parts. The ant in this image has very long antennae. They almost look like legs. In comparison, arachnids have 8 legs and 2 body parts. Instead of having flexible internal skeletons, all of the arthropods wear a tough exoskeleton or protective covering on the outside. I bet you can recognize some of these common examples of insects and arachnids. What do you see in these pictures? A crustacean is another kind of invertebrate and also a type of arthropod. Crustaceans have exoskeletons and usually live in water. Copiopods are the smallest of the crustaceans. They are barely visible, but they are a very important source of food for fish in the ocean. Can anyone think of other animals that are classified as crustaceans? Good ideas. Some of the more common crustaceans include shrimp, lobsters, fiddler crabs, and blue crabs. These animals all have a hard exoskeleton which protects their body and keeps it from drying out. Have you ever seen a crab? If you eat a blue crab like this one or a lobster, you have to remove its hard exoskeleton to find the tasty meat inside. So crustacean comes from the Latin word crustace, which means hard-shelled one. Snails, jellyfish, and earthworms are also invertebrates. Other spineless creatures include coral, sea anemones, and sea stars. Many invertebrates are small and hidden and may not even seem like animals, but they are by far the largest group of animals populating the earth. What a pretty jellyfish. What a lot of ways there are to classify animals. In order to study living things, taxonomists classify each organism according to its kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. The purpose of this classification system is to understand each organism better by the characteristics that make it unique. Vertebrates and invertebrates are 2 types of animals in the world of taxonomy. It's just one way of classifying animals, but I think it is a very helpful way, don't you? You and I may not look at all alike or much like Ebenezer, Tabitha, or Anna, but we have a very distinct similarity to one another. We all have backbones. Look at this chart that shows how a group of familiar organisms are related to each other. On the top row, you can see a group of living organisms: a house cat, a mountain lion, a tiger, a seal, a turtle, a grasshopper, and a tree. In the next row, titled Kingdom, notice that one of the living organisms is no longer included. Which one is it? That's right, it's the tree. The tree actually belongs to a different kingdom. What kingdom is that? Right? The plant kingdom. This row now shows only organisms that are part of the animal kingdom. In the next row, titled Phylum, the grasshopper is no longer included. All of the rest of the animals represented here are vertebrates, part of the Chordata phylum. In looking at the class row, you may notice that the turtle is no longer included. The turtle is in the reptile class, and all the other animals shown are mammals. In the row labeled order, the mouse is not included because it is not a carnivore like the other animals shown. What's true about all the animals in the next row? Family? That's right. They are all different types of cats. In the genus row, you can see that the house cat and mountain lion are more closely related than the tiger. And the very last row represents one specific animal, a species of house cat. This process of starting out with many animals and ending up with just one is called the process of elimination. As we went down the list, we eliminated or removed any animal that no longer had anything in common. The next time we get together, I will be showing you slides of fish, from tiny goldfish to gigantic sharks, and teaching about how scientists classify them according to their many different characteristics. You already know that fish are cold-blooded vertebrates. Be thinking about some other characteristics that scientists might use to classify fish. See you next time. All right, the word elimination means to remove. When do you use elimination? Maybe when you're trying to decide on something like what snack to have, you might eliminate the ones you don't like as much, and then you have less choices, right? So you're taking away one at a time that doesn't fit what you're looking for. What is a vertebrate? It's an animal with a backbone. What groups of animals are considered vertebrates? Reptiles, amphibians, fish, mammals, and birds. What is another name for the backbone in vertebrates? What do we say another name for a backbone is? That's right, your spinal cord, your spine. Your spine goes around your spinal cord. Why is the backbone or spine of vertebrates so important? It protects the bundle of nerves, the spinal cord, which carries messages to the brain. The way in which each individual vertebrae of a snake fits with the next one allows this animal to move with a special kind of movement. It allows the snake to slither. What very large group of animals is not a vertebrate group? What is not a vertebrate? Insects. What are they called instead? They're invertebrates. Why? Because they don't have a backbone. In the read aloud today, you heard about one group of invertebrates called crustaceans, which included lobsters and crabs. Why is the exoskeleton important to crustaceans? Why do they need an exoskeleton? It's the tough outer covering that protects its internal body part, so it needs that protection. You heard today that some skeletons of vertebrates are made of bone and some skeletons are made of a softer tissue called cartilage. What are some examples of vertebrates with a skeleton made of bones? Humans, frogs, some fish, birds, lots of other ones, right? What's an example of a vertebrate with a lighter skeleton made of cartilage? A shark or a stingray. How is a skeleton made of cartilage helpful to a shark or a stingray? It's more flexible and lighter than bone, which allows a shark or ray to swim faster and be more flexible. In the read aloud today, you learned how the skeleton and bones of certain vertebrates allows them to live a certain way. How do you think the skeleton and bones you have help you live the way you do? Do you think that another type of skeleton and bones would be better? What do you think? It's your opinion. What do you think? Do you think it'd be better for you to have a cartilage skeleton or an exoskeleton? Our word today is slither. Say the word slither. In the read aloud, you heard, even though snakes slither or slip and slide along, they absolutely do have backbones. All right. When animals slither, they slide smoothly, often with a slight zigzag pattern. The snake made no noise as it began to slither smoothly on the rock to bask in the sun. All All right. Good job, guys. Hope you enjoyed learning more about vertebrates and invertebrates. And we will look at our chart and fill out our chart during our afternoon meet.